Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever it happens to be from where you're at. I hope everybody's doing well, and thank you for being here. I've been confused this whole time as the intro's been playing because it claims I've already been live for 30 seconds longer than I have. I'm kind of confuzzled by that. I'm gonna go ahead and let's disregard that for now, and let's just say that it's a good old system error. But once again, hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're glad to be here. Hope you're as glad to be here as I am to talk about some crazy stuff, to say the least. Because I've been really enjoying this Moon Knight show, and episode 5 just went ahead and took my heart. And you remember the episode when we first see Moon Knight and he's pummeling the shit out of that dude, right? Steven eventually is like, all right, I don't know what's happening, but go ahead, Mark, take over. And he does, becomes Moon Knight for the first time, beats that guy to a pulp. That's what it did to my heart. Episode 5 had my heart pummeled into oblivion. We'll go ahead and talk about that, obviously. What exactly do I mean here? In the meantime, what's going on, Dan? Wow, probably need a sip of water. What's going on, Dan? Glad you're here, bro. Remember, he was saying he was promising that he'd be here for the entirety of this and that he wouldn't miss a second. So I'm really glad that he's here. Now, I know something was maybe coming up to possibly miss some of it. I'm glad you're here, bud. And Katie, thank you very much for stopping by as well. And also, thank you for saving a little bit of my sanity. StreamYard has been weird lately. Okay. Okay. I will go ahead and just kind of leave it to an assumption that StreamYard is being a bit bizarre. Like I said, technical issues. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to discuss episode 5 of Moon Knight. First and foremost, great episode. Like, I think that this was quite possibly one of the strongest. I hesitate for only one small reason, and it's actually my big complaint of just like the show. It's kind of a continuation of what we were talking about last time, little. I'll get it out of the way now, right? Because I want to focus on the positives here because I have so much more better to say than anything negative. My only gripe is that there is not much Moon Knight, right? There's not much of him as the titular hero in the suit doing some action. It seems though, or it seems as though, aside from whatever we may get in the finale, that any of the action that has been in the show was all the stuff that was in the trailers leading up to this. And to be honest, that's a bit discouraging slash disappointing to know that, you know, you kind of showed us, I don't want to say the best stuff, but like some of the best stuff in the trailers, and then just kind of left it all, I guess, to the wayside for the show. With that being said, I am not in the same boat as a lot of people that I hear. Not that I think that there's a lot of people complaining about the show, but from the people that I do hear complaining about it, it's, you know, the pacing, which again I guess is something I could agree with, but then also, right, this whole like, there's not really much Moon Knight in there. Now, with that being acknowledged, the story and the acting, so like the performances within here, the way this is all put together, the way it's been directed and edited, I definitely, I don't know. I am not in a position where I'm feeling like, you know what, I can't stand this. I don't see why people are liking this. This is ridiculous. Another fail for Disney Plus MCU shows. You know, we got to see how the finale goes, but so far this is just staying strong. Do I think it needs more Moon Knight? As I was just saying, yeah, that's my biggest complaint. Do I think the pacing's a bit weird? Yes. And yes and no. Yes, because it doesn't feel like this is the second to last episode. Like, it does not feel like the next week is finale. It's weird to think that that's the finale of the hopefully the first season. Saying that because it seems as though that maybe the only way I could kind of accept that this is only one season is because it's actually going to be like season 1 finale leading into a second season. So it's actually not just one season. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because again, that's my only other issue here is that it just seems very odd that they've gotten to such a nice point and now all of a sudden it's about to just, nope, now that's the end. And it's supposedly a limited series. So I guess that was the whole discussion about like if there may or may not be a season 2. But fingers crossed. All right, hold on. Let's see. Saw something pop up here. Jace, I shared this on my Instagram story as well. I mean to support, but I also saw you had the hippo in your story and she wasn't available last time. I wanted to use her, but again, also to support. Oh, well, I mean, thanks. I thought at first I thought there was like a complaint or something just about not being able to use the hippo. I know, man. I was surprised that she popped up in there. As far as the Instagram stuff, I'm always curious to see when you go to type in little whatever the graphics or characters to pop up in there and everything. Always curious as far as what they have available. Thought it was nice that they added to the roster there. Got to get that advertising out. So thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate it. I hope that brings some people on by, whether it's now to talk about it live or to catch this later, whatever it may be. So back on into the episode. I love the fact that this episode literally picked immediately right up where the last one left off. Right. So episode 4 ended. They just ran into this hippo goddess, and all of a sudden, boom, they're right back. So we get some immediate context as to what the heck is going on. But it's also a very oddly put together episode in a good way because it doesn't just kind of go as streamlined as you would expect. It starts off with a conversation that helps explain that that they're in or no, I apologize. They go from reacting to the hippo to the whole discussion with therapist Hero. Then it comes back out to them. Hence me talking about it's an oddly pieced together episode. So nonetheless, you see them back with the hippo, but then it cuts right to Mark and Harrow talking, and it's basically kind of like, wait a second, what's real anymore? Is anything in this show real? How do I know what to believe at this point? And it kind of dives right back into a therapy session, if you will, where he's basically saying, "Hey, Mark, good job. You've been really, opening up and letting loose and everything like that. This is great. We're making good progress." So it kind of makes you think, was the whole bit with him running away, finding Steven, running into the hippo lady, was that just in his head as he was like explaining and opening up to therapist Harrow? No, no, not at all. What we end up finding out is essentially that what they're on is really very close to what we were saying last week. So again, I can't take credit for the theory in its entirety. I just can take credit for, I guess, sharing it, right? Sharing the good word. But it seems as though that was absolutely on point. So they are indeed on a boat that is leading them to the field of reeds. I think last time we were saying the river of reeds or something like that. So there was the only mix up there. But leading them to the field of reeds, which is something to deal with the Egyptian afterlife, right? So this is something that I thought was really cool, just to go ahead and be like, oh my gosh, it was right. That was a good theory. It's proven to be true. It's always nice when that happens. Not like it's overly disappointing when it doesn't, but it's always cool when that happens to come to fruition. And then it was nice to just get some context and some confirmation as to where they actually are. So essentially, it's not so much that Mark and Steven are two separate people. It's more so that they are in a state of afterlife or leading to afterlife, right? Another plane of existence is how they kind of refer to it. And that's actually where we get our first reference to the MCU, which I mean, I don't know. I'm still hearing people like utterly shocked and complaining that, hey, there's no MCU ties to this. Why? How do we know if this has anything to do with the MCU? Uh, First of all, what the fuck makes you think that it wouldn't at this point? I can't be any more straightforward about it. There's no beating around the bush. Why on earth would you think that this has nothing to do with the MCU? Why would there be a Marvel Disney Plus show that has no pre-announcement of it not being in the MCU all of a sudden just turn out to not be part of the MCU? I think that that's really funny and kind of bizarre, to be honest, that anyone would have that thought process. This is not like the Netflix shows, right? With Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, Punisher. I get it. All of those, you could start to really question, is that actually in the MCU or is that like, just another universe? And I would argue it's probably just another universe. But this is an MCU. Well, I can't, of course, we're questioning if it is. I'm trying to say it seems so obvious that it's an MCU Disney Plus show because it's within the lineup of everything that's been coming out since they've been doing exclusively MCU shows on Disney Plus. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. With that being said, though, I felt like this was a pretty concrete tie into it. For what it's worth, I'm kind of, once again, shocked that anyone would say that this wasn't a bit of confirmation. Because what is it that I'm talking about? Essentially, the hippo lady ends up talking about there's different forms of existence, like different planes, right, of existence outside of just the one that we live in, and then afterlife, right? Because he's like, what, this is the afterlife? She's like, no, this is an afterlife, right? Very much saying that there's multiple of them. And she refers specifically to the ancestral plane, which I don't know how many ancestral planes you could possibly have heard being referred to, but I'm like 99.99999999 continuing percent certain that that is the ancestral plane from Black Panther, right? Where they go, it's like basically the opposite looking, I guess, in the Field of Reeds, where the Field of Reeds is all like bright and nice and crazy looking, and it's still beautiful in the ancestral plane, but it's more of like that purpley, bluey, glowy type of look, and that's where all previous Black Panthers can go, or I'm sorry, all Black Panthers can go when they pass to see previous Black Panthers, right? So anyway, how is that not your connection that you're looking for? Is that not the tie that you were trying to get out of that? I don't know. But I thought that was cool. So past that point, after them realizing where they are, there's the understanding that they have to make sure that these scales are balanced before they reach their destination. Because the whole purpose is, if the scales aren't balanced, which I'll explain what the heck are we talking about with balancing scales. If the scales aren't balanced by the time we reach this destination, then you're going to be thrown into this. Well, it's not a river they're going through, it's a big sea of sand. And you're going to be thrown into that sand, and you're going to just remain there forever. You're going to sink into it or whatever, and you're going to freeze into stone and just be a part of all of that. And there you go. There's your existence, which is, I mean, I guess it's just you die. Like, I wonder, do you remain conscious when you're in the sand? I don't know. It's weird to think about. But if the scale goes in your favor, then you happen to live out the rest of your existence in the paradise known as the Field of Reeds, which I guess is amazing. It's not really shown too much by the end of the episode. It's just kind of a quick glimpse of it. So I don't really know if, it looks like it could be very paradise like, but it's just a field, like legitimately like a field of wheat, I think it was, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not too sure what it was. Anywho, one of those two options is what awaits you at the end of this journey. Now, with the whole balancing the scales, it's basically balancing your soul, your heart, right? So you as a person, right? You a good person, go live out in paradise. You a shitty person, tossing you overboard, right? Into the sand of unknown if you have consciousness or not still. That would really suck if you do. It would really suck if you do. So after they find this out, that basically, the scales have to be balanced, and it's not currently balanced, as they put both of their hearts on the scale, right? So the hippo lady takes both Steven and Mark's hearts, puts them on the scale. Which I thought that was the perfect time to go ahead and reveal the whole thing with the third personality. I actually thought maybe that's why it wasn't balanced, was because the third heart wasn't on there. And maybe it needed to be, because there's actually 3 personalities in total. I really don't understand what the fuck is going on with that. I'm kind of really taken aback, to say the least, that there has been no reference to the third personality directly. There's actually a part in this episode, though, where I think maybe we actually got a chance to see him. Maybe. Not entirely sure, but maybe. We'll also get to that. So anyway, we got the 2 hearts on the scale. It's going back and forth. Hippo lady's like, you got to get your shit together. You got to get this balanced. And the only way to do so, apparently, is to go back and live horrific memories from your life. Which I was like, why? Why is that the only way to do this? Right? No, you have to go back to these horrific times that you would never want to have to live through again. And somehow that makes you pure of heart. Thinking about that now, I'm really wondering, why does that add up? Is it not just reliving it, but maybe coming to terms what it is and accepting the situation? And yeah, that seems kind of weird, I guess. But it's what they got to do, and it's very reminiscent of the penultimate episode of WandaVision, where Wanda basically spends the entirety of the episode going through her childhood, right, past events, to kind of explain how she got to where she is now. And it's insane how like it's essentially replicated here for Moon Knight, but it doesn't feel like it's the same exact thing. Like it's just cool how they mirror each other in a way, but at no point did I just sit there and be like, well, this is just fucking WandaVision, but with Moon Knight. It was just their own version of it, and they pulled it off well. So they're going through different rooms that lead to different memories, and this is where shit got like definitely starts to get real sad. Oh, I just happened to notice that this was perfect. Both the penultimate episode of WandaVision and this has our main characters digging through the past. Yeah, man. You know what? Actually, hold on. Before I go any further with what they did in the episode, can we take a moment to like kind of just acknowledge the fact that most of the MCU shows, and as I'm thinking about it, I think all of them almost act as like therapy for these characters. Like that's more so what the focus is than anything else. WandaVision was right, had a lot of like digging deep into her past. It's like a therapeutic type of thing. To create this world that she's made, this perfect world for herself where she's living it out with her fake kids and her hubby. Falcon and Winter Soldier, they literally went to therapy in that show. Loki, kinda. I'd say Loki is him discovering himself, reliving like certain things from either his past or acknowledging what his future would have been if he was like, continuing down his path of darkness and stuff. What if not so much? I guess. Maybe though, maybe to a certain extent. What if did with like the Strange Supreme episode? So right, the evil Doctor Strange, that was very much like, you know, I guess not therapy, but in this same realm of what we're talking about. Isn't that nuts? Hawkeye, kind of same thing, kind of, right? Hawkeye, like, yeah, actually, it is. What do I mean, kind of? Hawkeye totally fits into that realm, right? Because it's him having to like accept his past and then also like make up for it. You know what I mean? Deal with the repercussions of it and everything. I mean, it's a good premise. And they're obviously different enough to where they don't feel like the same shows, thank goodness. So, I mean, there's not really a complaint there. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how they all kind of go down a little bit of the same road, right? Maybe in different lanes, but down the same road. Interesting. So, all of a sudden, we get a chance to find out a little bit more about Mark and Steven's childhood. And so we realize that at one point they had a little brother. And apparently that little brother didn't make it too long because as they were both kids, one day went out, had a little bit of an accident, for lack of better terms. Watch the episode. It's not, you don't see anything too crazy, but you can go ahead and see exactly how it goes down. They basically, long story short, they walk into a cave and drown. Well, the little brother does. Right? It'll make more sense if you kind of saw that. It was raining. I guess that makes enough sense. I don't know. But the brother dies. All right, that's already kind of like tragic enough. And it's one of those where it pins it on Mark feeling like it's his fault because he was the older brother in that scenario and was the one that pushed for them to go into that cave that ended up drowning his brother. So it cuts between different segments. As I mentioned earlier on, this episode is very choppy, almost in the sense of like, again, the way it's pieced together, like how it's edited, right? You're jumping from one thing to another. And this is a little easier to follow. It's just like fast forwarding between this particular story. But there's other times where it like literally jumps from scenes to scenes, like the discussions with therapist Harrow and then these memories that they're reliving. Those are the parts that are jarring. And that's just before I again get any further with this like depressing part of the tale is what I wanted to address because I could easily understand where there was some confusion here. As a matter of fact, I was actually talking about this, Dan, with you, bud. We were going on about like how it is a little like jarring. I feel is a really good way to explain it when you're watching it. It's just like, whoa, wait a second, what? How the fuck did they get here? What is? Weren't they just here? Did they actually go there? What's going on? Imagine a dream. Like when you're dreaming, there's a lot of times where maybe you're in one place which also I find it interesting that sometimes in a dream you can be in one place, but in your brain it's like it's somewhere else. But that's aside from the point, right? So imagine that someplace in a dream you're at a place and you kind of like turn around or you walk through a doorway or something like that, right? Or maybe you don't even really distinguish how you went to another place, but all of a sudden you're just in another place, right? You're just there. How? You have no idea. Right? Sometimes that happens with people too. All of a sudden, like you're talking to a person, literally, all of a sudden, in the midst of conversation, they're another person, and there doesn't have to be much of an explanation given. It's like dream logic, you know. And I feel that's the type of logic that could easily be applied to this because this is much more what we would consider to be on like a mental type thing, right? Not a physical experience, more of a mental like experience of what we could relate to anyway. Um, and that's why I stand by the whole there was no two physical people as far as Mark and Steven. This is their souls, if you will, that are just being shown in a physical format. So um I thought that's basically the best explanation that could possibly be given, right? For when you have this jarring editing and going back and forth and seeing like what's taking place and trying to understand why is it jumping like this. Just imagine like a dream and how a dream kind of flows like that. Happen to see Anthony. What's up, my man? Hello, fella. Hey, fellow humans. Moon Knight is great and all. What is it? Oh God. I knew I should have read the whole thing like that. Hey, fellow humans, Moon Knight is great and all, but have you played Ebony, the King's Return? If only there was a way live to make it where there could, just for that little brief moment, have the audio displaced from the video. If anybody doesn't know what the hell that's a reference to, check out the other videos on my channel. If oh my gosh, if you guys haven't seen the commercial or the ad for Ebony, the King's Return, you're not missing anything great. Kind of though. It's like bizarrely and horribly amazing. Like it's like you don't want to like it, and there's some part of you that hates it, and then there's another part of you that's like, but don't skip past it. Watch the whole thing. And so I have a parody of the particular ad that was made for that game. And I do have a link to the original ad in the description of my video. So please make sure that you check out the original video. Otherwise, my parody is probably going to seem awfully weird and confusing. Oh gosh, no, Arnold. I've been programmed to say I've seen all the episodes of Moon Knight. Well, if that was the case, then I'd be talking about the finale right now. But I can't quite yet. So I've been programmed to say that next week I will have seen all of the episodes of Moon Knight. Oh gosh. I'm glad that you liked the episode, Anthony. I really do. I do think it was great as well. And yeah, as far as the whole like dream logic behind it, right, to bring us back into this here, I think it's just what makes the most sense. We don't have to look at this as though like real life literal logic would apply to where they are. They're on a boat that the inside of said boat is not even really a mental asylum. It is appearing to be like a mental asylum because the hippo lady describes to them. I feel bad. I should probably know her actual name, but I'm going to stick with hippo lady for now. Hippo lady describes them like your human minds can't truly fathom or process what this actually is. So, in order to like kind of make you maybe not lose your sanity, I guess, it's basically it takes the form of something that you recognize. So they're on a boat that appears as though the inside is a mental asylum, but it's not a mental asylum. That is going through a sea of sand leading to an Egyptian afterlife paradise that is judging your heart on a scale as to whether you're a good person or not. Hold on. Dan, I don't know how to say that. I'm afraid to try. I'm tempted. I don't know. Towerette? Towerette? But see, I don't feel like you're supposed to pronounce it all. Like, is it supposed to be like one of those that's spelt like that, but you pronounce it where it's a bit more condensed? Like Tourette? I'm sticking with Hippo Lady for now, okay? Schofield, what's up, my guy? Yes and no. You know what? With the whole Jake Lockley thing, let's jump into that as well because we will get back, of course, to this whole memory, the little brother situation, how y'all gets terribly sad and everything. There is a moment in the episode where it's another like therapy session with therapist Harrow, right? Which no, I don't think that's real Harrow at all. I think again that is just like an amalgamation of Mark slash Steven slash Jake's feelings of himself, like almost feeling like on the inside that, hey, I know I'm nuts. I should probably talk to a therapist. And Harrow seems to kind of get him on a level that no one else does because he's been an avatar for Khonshu before. So perhaps that's why he's putting his physical appearance to the therapist there. Long story short, there is a specific part. It's a very brief moment of the episode where he's talking to therapist Harrow, and all of a sudden he like if you notice, he acts just a little bit different than he does at any point when he's Mark. And I'm only specifying Mark because he doesn't have an accent when he's doing this specific thing I'm talking about. But there's a moment where he like stands up and starts like talking like nuts and picks up this thing that's on Harrow's desk that is a bit of a sharper inanimate object and kind of in a threatening way. You know, he almost gives like there's something implying that he is going to be physically aggressive at this point and like stands up and starts kind of talking like, yeah, doc, I think you fixed me. And he's talking like kind of nuts like that. I think that was our first glimpse of Jake Lockley because there's nothing in that scene in that moment that really depicts a reason as to why Mark would just go that level of nuts, right? Like we see him definitely have emotional moments and maybe like emotionally nutty moments throughout the episode, but nothing like that. That was on a completely different spectrum, if you will. And that's why I would definitely say that like I think that that little moment was Jake Lockley. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in that scene where he does that, right? Grabs that thing, is going nuts. He has um like a cut slash bandage on his nose. Like he's more bloody up here, and I could swear that that's the only scene that he has that. Like when he's just Mark or just Steven, right? That's nothing's there. But when he's Jake, if I'm correct, then he's got that thing. So I think that might be one more sign that kind of hints towards that. I don't know. We shall see. If Mark imagined Harrow as a doctor in the asylum, do you think Tony Stark would imagine Thanos as a doctor? Interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like you know what? No, he might. I bet he'd have Paul Bettany, right? And I bet it'd be Vision that would be Tony Stark's doctor because it's Jarvis, and you know who knows him better than Jarvis? So that's actually a really good point there. I can see where we're coming from with Thanos, but yeah, the more I think about it, and if we had to think of it all the way through of what would actually take place, yeah, I'm gonna stick with the living interpretation or representation of Jarvis, which I know Vision is not Jarvis. I'm just saying it's right. It's the same voice, and what else could he picture it as? Maybe he would just picture Jarvis with like Paul Bettany's human form, like kind of in like WandaVision. It was, like Vision in a human form, but so like looking like that, but like legitimately just be Jarvis, not be Vision. Who knows? Be interesting. That'd be interesting. Hashtag bring back Tony Stark. All right, I get it. Maybe not, right? It's one of the nice effects. You got to have people actually stay dead sometimes, sad as that is. Goddess. Again, I don't know. Tauret. I'm sticking with that. She is the protector of mother and children, as well as the goddess of life, birth, and rebirth. I knew all of that. I totally did not look it up or anything. Don't worry, Anthony. I believe you. I totally believe you. And I appreciate that you knew all of that off the top of your head and totally didn't look it up or anything. That there we go. I wonder why she's the one that's destined to be on this boat, like with afterlife stuff. Because I guess if you think it through, okay, so protector of mothers and children, which I mean he's a grown-up child. but he's not really either of those. So that's interesting. As well as the goddess of life, which he's dead, birth, he's dead, and rebirth. He's not really about to be reborn. He's going to an afterlife. So you know what I mean? I wonder why she's the one that's tasked with taking these people down this sea of sand to the river of reeds, to the field of reeds. Sorry, I'm still thinking as far as river of reeds from last time. I'm still learning it as well. I mean, no, I totally am not. I knew all of it and I didn't have to look it up either, just like Anthony. You're the real hero, Dan? Don't say that. Don't say that. That worries me. Spaghetti Dude, hey, what's going on? Thank you for stopping by. Hope you're enjoying the stream, as well as Moon Knight. Now I'm going to imagine every Marvel villain as a doctor. Dr. Red Skull, Dr. Green Goblin, Dr. Killian. Dude, Dr. Green Goblin actually like seems like it could be a thing. Like just because I picture Willem Dafoe and good lord, that guy could play just about anything, I feel like. And Dr. Red Skull actually too. Hugo Weaving. Oh my gosh, that actually fits way too well. You're onto something here. You're onto something here. And yeah, it's a little just bit bizarre that it could always fit because of the fact we were just referring to there's all these like therapeutic sessions taking places within these shows. Heck, you could probably say it's similar for the movies. Captain America and his whole journey is like a therapy session about him dealing with having his entire life left behind, having to now accept he's in basically a new world, for lack of better terms. It's the same world, just different time, but so far ahead it's different, dealing with that friendship of his that is all messed up with the Winter Soldier and everything. I could get Iron Man with his whole journey of like his, health issues and what he had to do to get his like mental stability straight, if that's the best way to put it. We could go on and on and on. But the point is, it seems as though every Marvel villain absolutely could potentially also be a doctor/therapist. Tourette? All right. If then I'm sticking with that, Dan. And if this is not the right way to say it, I'm blaming you. Okay. I don't know about the alligator god. I'm not sure. Oh wait, Amit? Yeah, Amit. Sorry, I forgot that was an alligator lady. Is it a lady? I think that's also a lady. So, anywho, we talked about the Jake Lockley part, right? Saying where he was probably in the episode. And again, anybody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in that part. Actually, go ahead and just look that up too, Anthony, since we're looking things up. Not really. But I'm joking. You don't have to look that up, obviously, but I'm really curious now, and I'm almost tempted to look it up myself. But I'm not going to while we're doing this. All right. I'm getting distracted here. Okay. So with Moon Knight, there is basically a part where, again, he has his little brother die, right? They go back, they're revisiting memories, and young Mark has his brother pass away. And because he was the one that took his brother to the cave that he drowned in, the mom very much holds him accountable, which is where things start to take a bit of a darker turn, because the mom resents him so much to the point where you could see that she eventually, what they're implying is that she has a bit of like a drinking issue, uh takes a much like darker approach as far as like how she handles stuff with him, if she handles stuff at all, like the kind of show that she doesn't show up for Mark's next birthday, and that when she does show up for the birthday following that, she kind of is still very much holding stuff against him, and hasn't forgiven him in the slightest. Anyway, it really is affecting Mark like it would any kid. That's got to be a very, I can't even fathom as far as how difficult that would have to be to internalize, and deal with. But we see Mark be in a situation where he first creates Steven. I mean, first of all, there's been a hint at the fact that Stephen Grant was a fake thing, because Mark and his little brother were like referring to it as they were on the way to the cave. Yeah, right? On their way to the cave. Yes. They were talking about it. They were acting as though one of them was Stephen Grant and the other one was the assistant. And Stephen, being the one following this memory, was like, all right, what's going on here? Because I'm Stephen Grant. So when you fast forward to this part now of little Mark being in a room and having his, the scene here is his mom's like pounding on the door to come in. She's yelling at him for something. And he's trying to essentially, I guess he's dealt with so much that he just wants to escape, right? And he's trying to convince himself that's not my mom. That's not my mom. That's not my mom. And eventually He does the whole right, his eyes rolling back thing. I don't know if I can even do it, but he does the whole eye roll back thing and first becomes Steven, and does the whole like, "Was bloody hell, I have to clean this mess," and starts going about cleaning the mess. But it's so heartbreaking to see. And then the mom breaks into the room, and when she does, you see that he like doesn't react kind of whatsoever, almost like he's truly lost, wrapped up in this zoned in world that he's created for himself to escape from this harsh reality that he's dealing with. And that was definitely a bit tough to see, but that's definitely not even close to the worst of it. It shows as far as like as he grows up, nothing ever got better. The relationship was never healed with his mom. He eventually, as a young adult, takes off and leaves. But there's specifically a moment for when the mom passed away, and there was a shiva that was taking place for her, so just a funeral service, if you will. And Oscar Isaac, as Mark, shows back up, right? So, like, I guess I'm not too sure, but they don't really clarify this. I'm gonna take into assumption that for a good portion of his adult life, he didn't have to deal with the whole being back and forth between himself and Steven. I don't really know. They didn't make that part entirely clear. But what they do make clear is that this is the moment right here as to where it kind of things started to converge and their lives really started to clash with each other. So there's this funeral service that's taken place, but Mark can't get himself to go inside of the house. It's his old house that it's taken place at. He can't do it, right? You see that it's too hard for him. And he sees father, and his father is like waving for him to come on, but still can't get himself to do it and ends up walking away. And this scene in itself is quite possibly it's one of the best performances in the entirety of the NCU. Like, I can't say enough, out of all of the Marvel movies and shows, this is really some of the best acting, in my opinion, that has been presented and put forth. And I say that obviously acknowledging there's been some really, really good performances. So I am not trying to knock anything, right? There's been some really good stuff that's been presented. But he walks down this street and it just really hits him as far as like everything, the whole fact of his mother has passed away. He hasn't ever really had much of an established relationship with her to the point where it can really have much residual impact on him. He was still so young. And he even says that in the street. Like, I was so young. I was just a kid. I was just a kid. But he breaks down, cries, falls like to his hands and knees in the street. And in the midst of this traumatic event, has that whole eye rolling back moment and then becomes Steven again. And literally just, right? Completely like, whoa, where am I? Oh my gosh, I'm lost. Can't believe this. What have I done? What is he called? He calls himself a Muppet. Thought that was kind of funny. Oh, what a Muppet. Oh yeah, Mom. I don't know where I am. Which is funny because you can tell, I'm pretty sure if they showed it correctly, and I think they tried to show just enough of this on purpose, that when Steven's on the phone with his mom, that he's not actually on the phone with anyone. I don't I don't know. I'm not too sure. Um, but nonetheless, right? Just that whole transition and to go from that heartbreaking, traumatic moment, breaking down, really hitting you hard, to all of a sudden completely shifting, right? Not like someone just told you a joke in the middle of you being sad, so you manage to crack a laugh and you start to shake things off. No, like just completely like whoop. I'm really a different person now. It puts that whole like disorder as far as into perspective and how, kind of life altering that could potentially be. It was a really just interesting thing to show, and it's stuff like that. It's stuff with this story. The reason I'm like so in depth talking about this one moment here and all these other emotional moments of this episode is it's done so well. For once again, that's why I can forgive the fact that the action, yes, is lacking a bit, right? Is there not as much Moon Knight? That's what I started this whole thing off talking about. There really isn't a hell of a lot of Moon Knight in this Moon Knight show, but it is such a well told story. It's being told in such a good way that I don't know. I have a lot of interest in it. It is very compelling. It's gripping me each time that it happens to be a new episode, and it's fresh and different feeling that I can forgive slash look past that stuff. That's just me. I could easily see why someone would not feel that way. I could easily see where people would sit there and want to be like, no, 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 I got to see it in its entirety, and then I'll look at it differently. But at least as of right now, as far as an introduction, there's more positives than negatives, right? So in this being one of them, right? A good example of just a fantastic performance that really goes a long way. I mean, Oscar Isaac's been killing it. Ethan Hawke's been killing it. Everybody else in their respective roles has really been bringing it. I thought even just like the parents in this episode did good. You know, the dad was such like a nice, down to earth, caring, genuine dad. The mom played her role well as far as like a bitter, I guess that's just the best word to describe, right? A bitter mom. So yeah, I mean, it was all in all, man, it was heartbreaking, but it was at least some really good stuff. So I will continue further, but I happen to notice some stuff pop through here. Spaghetti Dude. Well, I didn't watch Moon Knight at all. Interesting. Then I appreciate you even more clicking on this. I know it's strange. People here talk about it too much that I am turned off from giving it a try or see a minute. Or giving it. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, man. If you're still happen to be around, I highly recommend you give it a shot. It is strange, right? It is definitely strange. As far as talking about it too much, I hope that's I don't happen to be included in that as I sit here doing a live stream about it. But hey, you know, I mean, I can still respect the opinion there, right? Maybe it's just not for yourself. That's one thing to always take into consideration as to whether a show is even kind of up someone's particular alley or not, right? Just because it's a superhero show doesn't mean it's necessarily like one that's for you. I kind of have similar worries or concerns about like Miss Marvel coming up. I'm still gonna watch it, and I still have like a bit of excitement for it. I just don't know from everything that I've seen and heard so far if it's really like a superhero show for me. You know what I mean? In the sense of like that I would really enjoy as much as other stuff. So maybe that's like how Moon Knight is for yourself, if anything, right? And again, I will say this: if you do give it a shot, just go into it as I was like just going on a rant about with all the emotional stuff here. Don't worry, the whole show is not just an emotional train wreck, but it is a differently paced type of superhero show. It's a differently put together type of superhero show than like anything I'm sure that you're probably used to. I mean, I feel that way, that's for sure. But once again, thanks for stopping by, at least for this. You could never watch the show in its entirety, but as long as you keep stopping by for this, that's totally fine. Let's see. Ahmed is half alligator and half camel. That would be interesting to see Moon Knight fight. Well, yeah, that would just be interesting to see, let alone see it fight. Oh my god, man. Get out of here with your nonsense. The one thing I don't understand in this episode is why Steven has a heart to weigh. Interesting point and well put. If he is made up by somebody's mind, why would he be in the afterlife in the first place? Would Steven have a soul? And so this goes right back to the point. So, first of all, just great point in general. It also circles right back to when I was bringing up why wasn't there a third heart that was on this scale to be measured? They're absolutely, I mean, if they're trying to imply that Jake is actually a thing here, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to give the hints that they've given and then to have their perfect. That was really like, I know it sounds fun, served up on a platter because they got like the platter that's on the scales, right? That are weighed and everything. You're literally being served on a platter an opportunity to confirm that there is a third personality. Like, how dope would it have been if all of a sudden she put that on there or put the two hearts on there, and when she's like, yeah, hold on, this isn't balancing, and they're like, oh, why is it doing that? And I know she's like, oh, I don't know, I don't have any cards about this, I'm not too sure, I've never seen this before, maybe. Which I find that, I guess, maybe hard to believe. It's like, really, no one with this disorder has ever passed away and been on this boat before? Nonetheless, yeah, it would have been cool if she would have been like, oh, maybe the reason why it's going back and forth like this is because of the fact that like there's something missing here, right? Like there's, maybe it was the fact that like, well, no, because it's supposed to be lighter than the feather, or it's supposed to be the same weight as the feather. No, it's supposed to be the same weight. So it would have been cool, I guess, if it would have been lighter, like if the hearts were lighter than the feather, and it's like, what the heck? Why? That's so weird. Shouldn't it be like trying to balance? Why isn't it even going at all? And then maybe she would have been like, oh, there's something missing here. And then like Steven would have been like, Mark, what are you not telling me? And he would have been like, there's actually another of us. And then they would have gone back to that room with the shaking tomb that they didn't open it, and then we'd see crazy Jake. Which at this point, I'm just wondering, like, what would the dude even be like? I mean, it seems as though he would just be a complete nutcase based on if that one scene really was him, which I'm down for. But I want to see how he would act that out because I really have a lot of faith in Oscar Isaac at this point as far as how he would act out their performance. He's done really good as far as being two completely different people in my eyes with Steven and Mark. So yeah, I'd love to see another personality be thrown in there. It doesn't not to have it keep on going and going and going and going, but you know, at least a third one would be really interesting. And then yeah, as far as I still to circle back though, I don't even know why there would be three hearts in the first place, right? So even with all of that stuff I just said, yeah, I have no idea. Because as sad as it sounds to say, yeah, Steven's not a real person. He is a figment of Mark's imagination that has been presented as though it's a real person, right? He's acted out as though he's a real person, but at the end of the day, he's not. So yeah, it's just very bizarre that that's even the case. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just saying that Mark's heart in itself is split into two, like, because as far as like mentally how he handles things, but that you still are this person. Like Steven is the nice side of Mark, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not trying to actually say it's two separate hearts, maybe different components of the same heart. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt there because I really have no idea. Do you think Ethan Hawke is the best actor in the show? No, but I think he is a damn close second. And all I mean is I think Oscar Isaac is taking the cake. Um, but that is tough to say. I even hesitate right now as I like say that out loud because Ethan Hawke is bringing the heat. I don't know, man. It's really I feel bad. I've never really underestimated the guy, but I also can't sit here and say I've ever praised him up on something before or thought to myself when I see Ethan Hawke in something, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. But good lord, has this given me like a entirely newfound respect for this gentleman. He can act his ass off, that is for sure. Because as Harrow, everything is so fitting, and then now as this therapist Harrow, it's it fits like eerily well, and I absolutely love him in the role. So I do think that like the scales for Mark and Steven, I'm going back and forth. I would probably lean towards giving it to Oscar Isaac. I think he's just been doing a phenomenal job of believably being two people. And not just that, but then as we see Mark and Steven together, right? It was cool to see him do that when they were separate, but to see them like him side by side with himself and acting off of himself, I'd really love to see like how they put that together, as far as like filming it and everything. But yeah, I think that's kind of what plays into me thinking I'd probably hand it to Oscar and gives Mr. Ethan Hawke here a very, very close second place. Dan saying I think they should have looked in the coffin. Yeah, man, I don't know why they didn't, honestly. I find it very bizarre that they even took the time to acknowledge it in episode 4 and not circle back to it at all while they're here. And again, now it's really fucking weird to think about because if they actually go through with acknowledging Jake in the finale, right? Like if there's something that happens with well, Mark's already off the ship. So I don't even know what the it's so weird, man. That was literally their perfect chance to do it. Was in episode 5. That would have been spot on, right on the money of as far as where to address things. You would have been able to see the origin of Steven and then see another moment that like Mark definitely doesn't want to see. And when they eventually come to find what it is, that it's like the origin of Jake. That there's like a moment where, it's kind of I don't know actually. It's because it was a really sad traumatic event that made him become Steven. So I'm not too sure what would be the type of event to lead him to become Jake, but that's the point, man. That would have been really fucking cool to see. I don't know. It's really weird, actually. I mean, I don't want to have say like to say I have a huge issue with it because I'm still really happy just with what they're doing. But it's because of the fact that I know they're supposed to be throwing Jake in there that it's just like, why wouldn't you? Are you really gonna wait for the finale? And this is my only hope, everybody, is that if they do just that, if the end game here is to make it so that Jake Lockley is brought up and confirmed in reference to in the finale, that there has to be a second season going on here. I would think. Either that or, I mean, there's obviously direct continuation of Oscar Isaac as this character's story throughout the rest of MCU somewhere, right? So maybe we just see his story furthered in like another show. Like it's somebody else's show, but it still happens to be a continuation of his story as well. But honestly, it all just seems to be pointing at, or what it feels like, that there would be a second season, right? I think this was very much a test run. I don't think that they should have bothered calling it a limited series. I think they should have just said, hey, you know what? Just it is what it is, right? We're doing this 6-episode run. We're not promising anything, but if it goes well, then we'll see how things go. And I think at this point, it's just like it'd be really weird if there wasn't a second season, depending on the finale, of course. Which, by the way, is apparently the shortest episode of the season. And if that doesn't worry you, I don't know what does. I agree. They don't even feel like two split personalities. They feel like two characters. Yeah, man. Yeah, they really do. I couldn't agree with it more. I think it's something that, again, not to beat a dead horse here, but right, that's definitely just all praising Oscar Isaac's performance. And I think it's just really, really admirable as far as what he's brought to the table. I feel like Oh, with the person. Okay, gotcha. Sorry, it took me a quick second because I always forget that it's like what the full thing stands for, but DID being the abbreviation of it. Okay, so with that disorder, each personality is a different person. So maybe within this universe slash afterlife, they count each personality within that as a separate soul. I mean, so potentially, I do see where we're coming from, right? Because yes, like on a level, on like a mental level for them, if that's the best way to refer to this, yeah, right. They full blown believe, like it's not even a, come on, snap out of it type thing. It's a no, they fully believe and have actually created a separate personality to where it really is a different person. So, maybe nonetheless, it still doesn't take away from the fact that there's one physical body where you have one physical heart. I don't know. I'm not too sure. Again, we don't have to take the literal physical parts into play so much when you're on like a afterlife plane of existence. Yeah, that's probably what it's got to be, man. Is I just feel like they're just simply going off the fact of, hey, I guess each of these personalities has its own soul. But once again, if that's the case, where the fuck was the third heart for Jake? I don't get it. I don't get it. But some afterlives may just count it as one. Well, yeah, I mean they did mention that each like afterlife is different and stuff, so potentially that's not it's not a bad thing to consider there. Maybe Jake was created when neither of the other two could get something specific done. Hmm. Yeah. I imagine that like my only guess would be that potentially it could have been a situation where like Mark was starting to become like not a mercenary that Steven looks at him like, but that type of work, that line of work that seems to have that stuff going on. And potentially maybe it was something where Mark was in a situation like that he wasn't able to get himself out of. Like he was forced to do something that he didn't want to do. I mean, kind of like the night that Khonshu, had given him the Moon Knight powers. It seems like that could have fit. Where he was forced to do something he wasn't like trying to do, but had to, and was put between like a rock and a hard place, and eventually just like convinced himself that if he was somebody else, that he would be able to do those things. Hence, creation of Jake. Maybe, just maybe. Like I said, if that was the situation, then I don't really know why we wouldn't have seen like Jake at the scene where Khonshu gives him the Moon Knight powers. But maybe that was like he only became Jake for that brief moment. And maybe that's the whole thing, is maybe he doesn't really, maybe he just kind of like hulks out and becomes Jake from time to time, you know? It's interesting to think about. Maybe Steven is a variant of Mark that through some unexplained event went into Mark's body. Huh. Maybe because of Kane. That'd be really unique. There'd have to be some, yeah, like true magical type of shit going on there, which would make sense, I guess, right? With this whole like Egyptian god powers could potentially be squeezed in. That'd be interesting. That's an interesting thought. They would have needed Jake there for the hippo to take the heart out. Yeah, but and that's I get it, but they're balancing and weighing Mark and Steven's hearts at the same time, right? So if that's the case, and it's because both those personalities are part of the same physical body or whatever, I guess my whole point is, again, if like that was the situation, then why did they weigh both of them at the same time? If it's like, hey, Jake, that's not coming into play here because he would have needed to be there, fine. But then why aren't we weighing Mark's heart separately and then Steven's heart separately, and then leaving some sort of hint at the fact that there is a third heart that needs to be weighed? Because I understand, yeah, it probably would have made sense that he would have needed to be physically present, or as physical as it could have been, for that to take place. But still, I stand by the fact of like, all right, but then what's the point with both of I don't know. I don't know, man. It's an interesting situation. Again, they're digging themselves into a little bit of a weird hole here that I hope they make some sense out of. Right? Just choose one way or another. If there is no other third personality, I mean, so be it. I feel like that'd be kind of disappointing with what they've hinted at this point. Actually, would make literally no fucking sense with what they've hinted at this point. But just make a choice one way or another, and then finally do something about it. And it just feels weird that the finale is the spot to actually decide upon that. So I'm a bit concerned. What Schofield saying? Maybe Jake is the original personality who created Mark to cope with his father's abuse. Maybe that is why we don't see much of the dad in this episode. Man, that would be a really. I gotta. I don't think so. Because it seems so heavily implied that the father was the only parental figure that was actually there. Um, and I think it's the only reason we just don't see much of him is because Mark left as a young adult. Like we see the scene where he leaves, and then the dad even says, "Like I can't lose another son," which was that was also a really heartbreaking line right there, And then but he leaves anyway. So I mean, you can't rule anything out at this point. You know what I mean? But I would probably lean against that a little bit more. It does kind of seem concrete that Mark is the original, if you will, and that he has just kind of created these other things. And here's the other thing. If Jake is the original and we literally don't see him until the finale, that's even more fucked up. You know what I mean? Like I would have much more of an issue with that, to be honest with you, than just the fact that they haven't shown Jake until the finale. If all of a sudden it's revealed that no, like he's actually the real person, all this shit that you believed about Mark growing up and then eventually creating Steven, nah, it's been Jake the whole time. It just seems very out of place. And plus, then I really wouldn't know how to feel about the character. We've gotten at least a point in the show where you know Steven enough, you know Mark enough, and even with any flaws, especially flaws from Mark's end, of like any wrongdoings or whatever, there's some level enough of justification for that to where you forgive him as a character and there's some redeeming qualities that you want to root for him for the most part. Whereas Jake just seems like a fucking nutcase from anything that's even been hinted at so far, right? If we are to believe these hints are accurate. So yeah, if we were to find out that this nutcase is the actual person, now all of a sudden it makes you kind of shift your entire feelings of, well, so what the hell's going on? Is he even actually a hero? And could that be an interesting take? Absolutely. Do I think that's the way they should go? Not necessarily. They didn't know Jake needed to be there. I'm not well. Maybe neither of them know Jake, so they call Mark Marcus. I'm not too sure I don't know. I can't imagine it's a situation where. What's the best way to describe this here? Of course, they probably just didn't need to know. I'm mixing up my entire thoughts. Dan, you're confusing the fuck out of my brain with that one. Yeah, they probably didn't realize that Jake needed to be there. And it could be a situation, like you said, Dan, that they don't know Jake exists. Like there is a level of confusion from the episode earlier on. I think it was episode 3, where Mark snaps back into himself after killing some people. And then he sees Steven in the mirror and he's like, "What did you do?" And Steven's like, "I didn't do anything." So it could very much imply, since there's not like any sort of understanding there, that it could be like, yeah, wait, what is that? Where did this come from? I'm lost. Right? If it wasn't either one of us, then who was it? So maybe they just don't know Jake exists. But even if that's the case, there's been other hints to them that Jake must exist, as to why wouldn't they look a little bit further, specifically the tomb from the last episode. So from episode 4, like, Mark specifically goes to a room, has a tomb in it, and he opens that one to get Steven out. So I just don't really see what's the purpose of like doing that. You see another tomb also shaking, kind of, and I think maybe you hear someone saying, let me out, let me out. I believe so. And then not do anything about it. Like, at that point, wouldn't you feel like you kind of want to just find out as much as you can? You were just willing to open up this other tomb. You're not going to open up the second one. I don't know, man. I'm not too sure. So maybe they don't realize who Jake is. All the more, I still can't comprehend why, if you're weighing both Mark and Steven's hearts at the same time, then why, even if Jake wasn't present there, why wouldn't you also need Jake's heart to be weighed simultaneously in order to get an accurate answer? I don't know. If Jake is a nutcase or insane, then that would explain the asylum. Yes. I mean, I do 100% agree with that, at least, right? So if there was some chance of like Jake being either the original or whatever the case is, right? I mean, that would make a lot more sense. But once again, I hope that that's not the case. To me, I don't know why, it would just feel so fucking bizarre if all of a sudden it's like, nope, scratch all that Mark and Steven stuff, right? That was a cool story, wasn't it? Yeah, but forget it, because it's actually Jake. It's actually the insane person that is the superhero that we're following. Which is, I mean, could be interesting in itself, but seems like he'd probably be more of a villain with the way that he acts. It's not just so much that he's crazy. It seems like he's like deranged and like, brutal. More brutal than Mark can be. But just saying something. Dan throwing in also, that's probably why they didn't open the coffin. They didn't know there was another personality. If they did, they may have opened the coffin. No, and again, that's fair. That's fair. But here's my point. Curiosity provoking. You don't know where you are, right? You're in a completely like foreign area, right? Somewhere it's just like, I've never been here before and I'm worried. I just went into this room because I'm trying to escape. And what do I find? Holy fuck. I found my other personality in a physical form. Now, of course, I'm not saying that because you see another coffin, you should expect to find another personality. But wouldn't you be intrigued to see what that coffin is holding? Because it's like, dude, the last time I opened a coffin, I found my other personality. Who the fuck knows what this coffin could have? And even if it's not a guarantee that it's something positive, but that it would seem as though curiosity would kill the cat in this case, and that he wouldn't be able to help himself, or that Steven would be the one to be like, wait, I was just in a coffin. Shouldn't we help this person? You know what I mean? It's a valid point, Dan, don't get me wrong, but that's the only rebuttal I would have to that, is that it seems as though there would still be enough coming from their end as to why they would want to open it, even if there wasn't the, like, I'm certain that there's another personality. Schofield saying to Dan, it still feels weird that Mark heard someone struggling to get out of the coffin, didn't help them. Yes, right, there we go. That's exactly what I was just throwing out right there. Dan, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. And I'm glad you see what I'm saying, Dan. I thought you meant the first time it was being weighed, but you're saying, did it work the second time without Jake's heart? Well, I mean, just, yeah, in general. I don't know, like, in totality, don't you need, if he has 3 personalities, and if you're taking the time to weigh 2 personalities together, why? Like, are you able to simultaneously weigh them as separate hearts? I don't think so, because otherwise, again, just why wouldn't you actually weigh them separately? There's no implication that there is a chance that this scale could weigh 2 separate hearts on separate basis at the same time. So once again, it's just basically saying, I think that if they wanted to do it properly, and that there is indeed a third personality, then you kind of fucking need the third heart on the tray as you're doing all this weighing here. I mean, No, I probably would hesitate to open a coffin too, Dan, if I was going through that whole scenario. But then again, I don't know. If I was trying to just get any help, if I heard a voice that I thought I recognized and it was already like, okay, I mean, shit's already weird, then maybe it'd be one of those things where it's like you kind of like you just swipe at it, like you push the top off and you're just like, like you kick it, and just like step away real quick just to see what it is. Ooh, I just heard some crazy ass thunder behind me. It's a storming, folks. It's a storming. The implication of the other coffin is that it is yet another personality, unless there's some twist. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what we're saying. So Jake Lockley is the third personality that we're referring to, that it has to be him. Between that scene, once again, that I've referred to a few times between this stream and last stream, that scene where Mark snaps back to reality and realizes that nor he or Steven murdered these people that he apparently just murdered. And then this second coffin that has someone rumbling around in it. And then again, that scene that I brought up where, therapist Harrow is talking to, it seems like it's probably Mark because he doesn't have the British accent, but that he's acting like just a little too like nutty. Those all heavily are like, hey, there's a third personality here, right? Past that, who knows? But there's definitely three. And so, if anything, again, to circle back, keep bringing this up over and over and over, but just so odd that they didn't confirm anything about that in this episode. And now we're getting into the point where we're about to hit the finale. Well, if I heard someone trying to get out of a coffin, okay, yeah, I wouldn't help them. Yeah, it would be a little bit of an odd scenario, which is, it's kind of bad to think, because then it's like, man, if I was in the coffin, I would really hope that someone would stop to help me. But thankfully, I don't think that's a regular scenario we have to worry about ourselves being put in. If there are any other Moon Knight villains for season 2, maybe they're in the coffin. Possibly. I like where that thought's at. Well, let's see here. I want to go ahead and, as I not at a close just yet. Oh, but before I go for see you, Dan. Sorry that you got to go now. Right as I'm getting to this last part here. But nonetheless, it's towards the end of the discussion anyway. So thank you so much for sticking around as long as you could, but appreciate it. So the only last thing that I wanted to bother mentioning is, aside from all this sad stuff, is one more sad thing. Because at the end of the episode, when essentially they are getting to a point where it's the end of this journey, they are finishing up or wrapping up, going through these memories here and realizing how all of this came to be, how Steven came to be, more or less. They get to a point where they're on the boat, right? So they're out of the mental asylum part of it. They're outside where like the boat is. They could see the sea of sand around them. They're talking to Taweret. I believe, again, we have decided it's Taweret. And so basically they get to their destination, but the scales haven't balanced yet. And because of that, she's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I could do, but there's some like dead people from the sand that are going to come and kill you and bring you to the sand, I guess. And so they do. They start to actually come up on the boat in an attempt to do that. And at first, Mark and Steven are putting up a fight, right? Mark specifically at first, because he's the fighter. But then Steven builds up some courage and he's like, I got to do something here. I can't just stand back and watch this. And he accepts the fact that, you know what? If Mark knows how to fight, I mean, he's me, so I must know how to be tough too. So he stands up and actually starts to be a badass for a little bit, which is awesome. Like, he legitimately saves Mark. It's really cool. And then he does so in a way that ends up kind of unintentionally sacrificing himself. So Steven like tackles one of these sand dead people off of Mark, and as he does so, goes overboard of the boat into the sea of sand. And it's like quicksand, basically. I mean, because it's not the same in essence. He doesn't sink, but it's like he can't walk. He's like all of a sudden kind of stuck, and he slowly but surely becomes a like stone Steven. And we lose him. He's gone. He's gone, folks. Steven's a fucking goner. Unless they pull some Marvel shit and bring him back, which you never know. That could easily happen. Easily could happen. I can't imagine that they're looking to just drop that entirely. But I will say, even if it's something where he does come back, the way that this was executed was done in a very heartbreaking manner. You know, it was very sad. You get to a point where Steven's just, I keep describing him week after week as an endearing character, and that's exactly how he comes off. And it's so sad to see that endearing character go in that really depressing way. You know, as he's like reaching out and calling for Mark, and Mark is just as sad about it. You know, he's like, "Stop the boat! We gotta get my dude Steven." But no, no, the sand took him. The sand took him. And the only upside to that is that it leaves Mark in a situation where the scales have now balanced, and apparently that allows him to go to the field of reeds. And that's the ending shot of the entire episode, which is a really beautiful shot, by the way, but also of just, you talk about a cliffhanger, like what the hell is about to happen from here? That's a really interesting kind of thing. And I have a very few theories, to be honest with you. That's what I would have liked to end with, is some theories as far as where this is going, how it's going to end and everything. I don't even know what the fuck to guess at this point, but I will try to speculate real quick. I do feel as though Mark is going to attempt, of course, to leave the afterlife, right? I don't think it's a situation where he's just going to accept, like, cool, I'm in paradise slash heaven, if you will, and I'm just going to chill here. I'm good now, right? Everything's fine. Forget about Layla and Steven and Harrow and all that type of stuff. You know, I do think that Mark is going to try to come back, somehow save Steven. I do feel like in the midst of all this, Jake is going to be revealed, which is hopefully going to leave it where there's like a cliffhanger for a second season type of thing. But it's not so much that he's going to save Steven. I think that he is going to just like be able to get Steven back. I have no idea how, by the way. Hopefully have Taweret help them actually get back. You know, I know she was in the midst of helping them, but maybe get to a situation where he, like, after he escapes the field of reeds somehow, you know, manages to go backwards. I really don't. This is tough. This is tough for me. Usually I have some sort of thing to latch onto and be like, well, I think this. This is one of those where maybe it's because I don't know enough as far as like the source material. You know, I'm not as familiar with Moon Knight as other characters from like the comics and animated stuff. But I do picture, once again, Steven coming back, Jake being introduced, them coming back to life, so the land of the living, dealing with Harrow, Khonshu coming back. Like, so I'm imagining Layla's going to come into play to help Khonshu come back, so that eventually Moon Knight can come back into his own fucking show. All right, so after he comes back from the dead, Khonshu comes back from being a stone creature. They link back up. Powers are back in order. Moon Knight steps up and takes down, well, I was going to say Amit, but I actually think that it's going to be more so that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Harrow gets like his own Moon Knight like suit, you know, because he's Amit's avatar at this point. And it does seem in typical Marvel fashion. Oh my God, this is really worrying me as I'm saying it out loud. I hope they still make it super cool. But it's like in typical Marvel fashion that they would go down the road of having it where it's a hero going against a villain that has like basically a similar power set, just a different color. You know, so you got Moon Knight as far as like the cool gray. He's got like his a little bit of the gold in there and like the blue eyes, you know, would lighten up and stuff like that. I'm sure Harrow's going to be like in this dope ass purple suit. Um, yeah, probably would be cool, but I am getting kind of worried. It's a short episode. Seems like that's pretty plausible what I just brought up there. I don't want it to be a typical Marvel finale. I really want this to do well. So, anyway, I am excited about where it's going. I'm keeping my faith strong in this show. I'm staying optimistic. I'm staying hopeful. There is one last thing, actually, aside from just the end of the episode. There's one other thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought it was the dumbest fucking thing that I had read in a while as far as articles go. And I just, you know, with all due respect to this person that wrote the article, what the fuck were you thinking when you wrote this article? There is someone that was bringing up like, hey, you know that scene where you know, you see all the souls falling from the sky, which I completely skipped past this, by the way, when I was breaking shit down. So there's like a point in the episode where Mark and Steven can see all these souls falling from the sky right down into the sands, right? They're not on the boat on their way to be judged. They're falling straight to the sands because they have been prejudged by Harrow or Amit specifically, right? It's basically insinuating that he's already won, if you will, right? And this person that wrote this article mentioned about how Thanos, what'd they say? They're like, oh, that's what happened to all the people that Thanos snapped away. Like now, because they were like, Moon Knight confirms the horrible fate of all the people snapped away from Thanos's snap. And it was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That makes literally no sense. There's no connection there. We literally see from Yelena's point of view in the Hawkeye show what it was like to go through the snap. It wasn't anything to them. The people involved in the snap fucking disappeared, and in the blink of an eye, they were back. And then now shit was different. That's it. There was no, oh, we went to this horrible sea of sand and we stayed there frozen in stone for years and years and years. So what the fuck? I don't know. Again, I couldn't help it. I thought it was way too funny when I read that article, and I was like, wow. And you are in charge of writing articles about this stuff for this website. Fucking good for you. How you got a job is beyond me. But anyway, let me read up the last little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and hop on out of here, guys. See, Anthony, seriously though, you know the Marvel shows are doing something right whenever we can have fun speculating about these different things. You damn right, man. Absolutely, they are definitely doing something right. And look, as I'm saying here, fingers crossed that the finale is going to go ahead and just knock it out of the park. I just really more than anything hope it doesn't shit the bed, right? It doesn't have to be the greatest finale in the world. I'm trying to keep my expectations at bay, but I really, really hope it just stays strong the entire way through, because that's the only thing, man. Only thing about these Marvel MCU Disney Plus shows is, unfortunately, it's a situation where they may have the strongest beginning, middle, or all of that, but the end just kind of seems to not really come together in the way that you'd expect. Right? Not because they don't even feel like a sufficient ending. I understand they're not supposed to be all the time. Sometimes these are just shows that are like, no, it's just this is a little bit of a story here. It's an extended movie, if you will, but this isn't like the end of everything. Cool. Fine. But still, some of these finales could definitely be doing better than what they've done. Schofield throwing in, I don't get the Moon Knight / Batman comparison. Maybe it's because we get almost no Moon Knight in the show, but they are very different. Oh, yeah, like 100%. The only comparison that I understand is the way that they kind of shoot the stuff for Moon Knight as they suited up character. So like when he is running on the rooftops, he definitely clearly has a bit more superpowers to him, obviously, based on like the healing factor, and he can't fly clearly, but he can clearly like leap more than a regular person can. So I don't know, super jumping, if you will, maybe super agility. I'm not sure what the best way to describe it is, but the way that it is shown is like it's kind of Batman-esque, if you will. Like the whole, I don't know what you would call the things on his chest, right? But they're like his version of batarangs. But that's really it, because I'm more on your side. They are very different. There's not enough of a comparison to say this is Marvel's Batman. It's like, wow, that's one of the fucking worst ways you could possibly describe it, to be honest with you, because yeah, comparisons they're very slim there. At the end of the day, let's just hope this show doesn't end with a boner joke like WandaVision. Holy hell, Schofield, I could not agree with you more. That's what I mean. Is like, I like this show at this point way too much to where, like, I'm not saying I won't be able to look past anything negative, but that is going to just piss me off if they really go ahead and throw some shit like that in there. Anthony throwing, especially the adaptation of Moon Knight. It's very different. The only Batman stories like this involve Scarecrow, warped visions, and psychological horror. Yeah, so exactly, right? There's not really, like, Batman doesn't have split personalities, and he never has anything close to that. And so I agree, Anthony. That's a super solid example there. Like the Scarecrow stuff, maybe Dr. Hugo Strange is maybe like kind of on the verge of that too, because it's in the same realm-ish type of stuff as Scarecrow. Maybe Mad Hatter, because there's experiences that he puts, Batman through with like the mental stuff. But then that's the thing, is those are all just trippy mental experiences that he's put through from these villains, but none of those involve like separate personalities, or anything really close to this. You know what I mean? And hell, Moon Knight's parents were alive for the majority of his life. So that's a huge difference from him and Batman. Oh, gosh. You imagine Moon Knight has a discussion with Batman. Batman's like, "I never had a mom," and he's like, "Well, dude, you should be lucky because my mom fucking hated me. She was a drunk and she considered me responsible for my little brother's death." And he's like, "Well, I consider myself responsible for my parents' death." And he's like, "Why did you actually like take your parents to a cave where they drowned?" He's like, "No, I brought them to an alleyway where they got shot." Neither one of them would be more right than the other in that case. They would just both be sad, but they'd be sad together. I heard there will be a season 2 of the Cinema Squad. What are things you guys will be talking about? Oh, I will get. This is a great thing to go ahead and kind of finish off on here. I'm glad that you heard about that, Schofield, that you're excited enough to ask. Well, shooting the shit is specifically what we will be bringing back. So, second season of that, which I am utterly stoked for. I can't stress that enough. It's to the point where I never wanted it really to end in the first place. I understand that as other adults are part of this, other than myself, that we need to make sure that everybody can keep their sanity and have their lives that they live. But yeah, I was really disappointed when season 1 even came to a close in the first place. So, very happy that we're coming back with the second season. As far as what we'll be talking about, I wish I can give a little bit more insight into that. I can tell you right now that I am always going to be squeezing as much superhero talk as I can in there, just because that's my favorite shit to talk about. But at the end of the day, the only reason why it's really definitely hard for me to give any sort of preview, if you will, is because it's just good old shooting the ship. It's not about anything specific. It's just kind of whatever is coming up at the time. Maybe I'm guessing, movies that are out at that point in time. If we've all gotten a chance to see it, then there's probably a good chance we'll be discussing that. We'll definitely be having a lot more skits coming. I'm super excited about that. Can't again talk about the subject matter of them. That's because we literally haven't made them yet. So it's not even like I'm trying to withhold any information there. But yeah, so just good discussions, good skits. Don't know what they'll be about just yet, but I know that there'll be something that'll be worthwhile. We stress as much as we can that we like to take the time and effort and put the energy into making stuff that is worth your entertaining time of entertainment, worth taking your time to be entertained. One of those made sense. Anywho, that's about that for now, folks. I'm gonna go ahead, get on out of here, sit here and wait patiently for the finale of Moon Knight and hope that once again it doesn't shit the bed. Because if it does, I'm not looking forward to the next live stream that we have together. As of right now, I am. But if that finale is not that great, I am not going to be happy about having to come back on here and talk about another not so great finale with you. So let's all keep our fingers crossed, stay optimistic and positive here, right? And just know that good things could be coming. Hopefully. Please, please, for the love of everything. And if it's going to end in a weird way, then once again, please let there be a season 2. Just like there's going to be a season 2 of Shooting the Shit coming this June. I wish I had something to put up on the screen to advertise it. I probably do somewhere in here. No, maybe I don't. I probably spoke too soon. There. Yep. Nope. I don't have anything. All right. Well, at least I said it. So there you go. We're coming back in June and appreciate anybody that stopped by for this. Look forward to once again getting a chance to talk about the Moon Knight finale with you. Until next time, everybody, you have an absolutely great, fantastic, phenomenal rest of your days. Thank you so much as far as Schofield. Appreciate you stopping by, bud. And Anthony, thank you very much as well. I appreciate the kind words from each of you. I hope this was a good time getting a chance to chat together for a little bit. And once again, until next time, everybody. You take care of yourselves.